And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. I am your pal, Dan L. This is my channel. And I just watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and guess who comes off well? Kal-El. Today's video is entitled The Most Important Year in American History, or if you prefer, The Most Important Year in the History of the United States of America. And there's a lot of years, over 240 years. So why did I settle on just one year? Well, I'm going to explain that in this video. And the year that I've come up with as the year that's the most important in all of American history is 1973. Now you might say to yourself, wait a minute, what about 1776? What about 1789? What about 1861? What about 1865? What about 1941? What about 1969, the year we put someone on the moon? Those are all years that are worthy of consideration for the most important year in American history. But for me, it's 1973, and I am going to explain that as thoroughly as I can in this video. There was a confluence of events in that year, and I'm going to try and list them off one by one and try and go through why they were so important and how all together, when you add up these events, they caused a traumatic event called suicide. I believe the United States of America started in 1973, started heading down the road of societal suicide, national suicide, cultural suicide. And there's so many ways to put it. And by the way, before we get any further, go any further, little drink of water. Every video requires a little bit of water and a cough drop because my throat, as you know, always got a problem. If it's throat cancer, it's the slowest metastasizing cancer in history. Anyway, so let me circle back like Jen Psaki to the meat of the story, the meat of this video, which is 1973 and how we were on a positive path in 1972, and in 1973 we got off that path and we started heading towards national suicide or dystopia, however you want to look at it. We were started down the wrong path, heading in the wrong direction, and it's sad because from 1776 to 1973 we were on the right path. The United States, never a perfect country, always riddled with flaws like any other country. Slavery, internment camps, Jim Crow laws, I could go on, but you get the point. And imperfect people trying to become better with each generation. And the good thing, the wonderful thing about the USA from 1776 to 1973 was that each generation was successful in doing one thing, building a better future for their children. Let me repeat that. From 1776 to 1973, each generation cared about their children so much that they built a contemporary society that would be beneficial for their children. That means when their children became adults, they would be living in a better America than their parents inherited. So children, for all those generations, for almost 200 years, all the children born in the USA inherited a better country than their parents had. And then in 1973, that stopped. And what happened was, instead of parents bequeathing, is that a word? Bequeathing to their children a better future, parents got really selfish, self-centered, greedy, short-sighted, and parents said, it's all for me. Screw my children. I want all the happiness and all the fun and all the treasure. I want it all right now. And I really don't care if the future's better any good for my children. I don't care what the future is for my children. It can suck. I don't care. I care about me and I care about now. Now I'm going to start off with 1970, the confluence of events. Number one, the United States of America officially lost its first war, in my opinion, 1973. I think the Paris Accords were signed in 1973. So America lost its first war, Vietnam War. Boom, we lost. Now, could we have won? Well, if we had if we went in for the right reasons, and B, if we had the willpower. That's the real point. Point B is important. Did we have the willpower to win the war? Did we understand why we were over there? We were over there to stop the spread of communism. But anyway, so we lost our first war. Point number one. Point number two, energy crisis. If you ask someone in 1972, this country is on the verge of an energy crisis, they would have said, are you kidding me? These are people who grew up in the 50s. In the 50s, there were advertisements saying that in the future, energy will be too cheap to meter because of nuclear energy, nuclear power plants. We had built a bunch of them. We also had, of course, energy from coal, oil, natural gas, wood, hydroelectric, and a bunch of other, a little bit of not solar, but a little bit of wind power. The point is, we had a diversity of energy supplies. And in 1972, you would have asked someone, "Do you think we'll have an energy crisis?" They would have said, "No. Are you nuts? This is the United States of America. Do you know how many? Do you know understand that the amount of natural resources we have is amazing? With all the natural resources in the USA, we're going to have an energy crisis? That's not going to happen." But in 1973, it did happen. OPEC turned off the spigot of oil to the USA. There were lines around the block to gas stations. Again, I was alive in 1970. I was aware of what was going on in 1973. I wasn't an adult, but I was definitely at that stage of life where I could see a lot of craziness happening. What else happened? The Apollo program died. Why is that important? NASA had a wonderful success in the 60s. 1969 landed a man on the moon. That was the Apollo program. Manned lunar missions, sending people to the moon to walk around. Awesome. We weren't just the first nation to ever land human beings on the moon. So to this day, we're the only nation to do that. That was an amazing account. We beat the Russians to the moon. The Russians never got there, by the way, but that was an amazing. It's a great boost to the national ego. We we won the race to the, and it was, yes, was it? We came in peace for all mankind. That's the Lexan plaque or whatever up on the moon. Was it a military? Yes, it was a military race, but it was still an amazing accomplishment, and it still was and it was a scientific accomplishment. It was a great accomplishment for engineering and science, showing America was awesome in the in the field of engineering and in the field of science. USA was awesome. Um, Number four, abortion. In 1972, the Supreme Court said if you're Charles Manson and you're on death row, we're not gonna kill you. That's immoral. The Constitution says it's immoral to kill people like Charles Manson because he was on death row in 72. And the Supreme Court said everyone on death row has a get out of jail free card because we are ruling that the death penalty is immoral and it's unconstitutional. It violates the clause which says cruel and unusual punishment. So in 1972, we got rid of the death penalty for people like Charles Manson. In 1973, we instituted the death penalty for defenseless innocent children. We've killed 72 million children in the USA since 1973. That number is 10 times the number of the Nazi Holocaust. So does that make us 10 times worse than Nazi Germany? I'll let you decide. But the point is, in 1973, a year after we said the Supreme Court outlaws the death penalty, we instituted the death penalty for unborn children. We said women who kill their own children are heroes. Number five, Nixon, one of the worst presidents in American history, he opened up the door to China. We already, not just diplomatic relations, we established a two-way relationship with China. Before 1973, we didn't really pay much attention to China. Other from a military standpoint, China, because in '64 they detonated a nuclear weapon. From a military standpoint, we were concerned about China, but we in 1973, China was still stuck in the 1930s, technologically, as a society, as a technological society. They were not a modern society. They were 40 years behind all first world Western societies. In 1973, Anglo-French Concorde was doing test flights. China was so far behind that technology of space launches and supersonic transports and all that kind of stuff, satellite communication. China was effectively in the dark ages. But in 1973, Richard Nixon reached out his hand and he said, "Hey, we want to be buddies." I don't know why he did it, but Richard Nixon and the Republicans and the United States of America as a totality, as a society, we reached out and said, "We want to help China." Why did we do that? I don't. To this day, I have no idea why. And if Nixon were alive and he started explaining it to me, I'd probably say, "Yeah, that's stupid," because whatever the explanation was, it has to be stupid. Number six, I think. Watergate. Again, going back to Nixon. In the summer of 1973, and I know this because I got to watch it on TV, we did something that we'd never done before. We were broadcasting the crucifixion of a president, and Nixon deserved it, yes. Horrible president. But what do I mean by that? If you were a kid, you got out of school around May or June of 1973, and for the summer, June, July, August of 73, every day in the afternoon on CBS, ABC, NBC, on all three networks. I'm not sure about PBS, but on all three networks for a few hours every afternoon, there were hearings. Congress, I think it was the House of Representatives. It might have been the Senate too, but the Congress was holding hearings on whether or not Richard Nixon was a corrupt piece of crap. He was a corrupt piece of crap, but as a little kid, you're watching this, you're like, wait, I don't remember what's the name of this TV show? Well, that TV show was on 5 days a week for several hours a day on all three networks. Congress was grilling the people who were in the people from the White House. What was his name? There's a guy who wrote Blind Ambition, Dean, something Dean. I forget his name now. Anyway, hold on. What is that guy's name? John Dean. There we go. I think it's John Dean. So he became the star of that television series in the summer of '73, telling everyone that Nixon was as horrible as all the Democrats said he was. Nixon would later resign in '74. But in '73, they really got the ball, because of investigative reporting, they really got the ball rolling on how crummy your number one, the top of the number one leader is the President of the United States. And people found out in '73, pretty morally bankrupt leader. Kind of like the Supreme Court, morally bankrupt with their abortion decision. What else happened? We mainstreamed pornography. I'm not going to go too much. That's self-explanatory. We basically decided, yeah, if kids want to see hardcore pornography, who are we to say that's immoral? So we mainstreamed hardcore pornography. 1973, divorce skyrocketing. Along with the abortion issue, we're working really hard in 1973 to get rid of the traditional family unit, the nuclear biological family. We're doing everything in our power to get rid of that. Does that sound like a good idea to you? To get rid of the fundamental building block of society, the family, the nuclear biological family? What else is going on? I would say science in 1973. I believe science in the USA died, and it died with self-inflicted wound, and it was because we started the whole. I mean, I started noticing. Other people can have their own opinion. This whole "my truth" movement, where people are like, well, my truth is I'm 8 feet tall, I'm 400 years old, and I'm a woman, and I come from a planet called Zirconia in the Andromeda Galaxy. And we were all of the normal people are supposed to act like, well, yeah, nothing wrong with that. All of the normals are supposed to just say, oh, that's who you are? 400-year-old alien from another galaxy? Yep, that's right, because that's my truth. That's, sorry, anti-science. So the anti-science movement, in my opinion, started in 1973. Other people can have their own opinion on that. So let's go through them again. Vietnam War, energy crisis, Apollo program was killed, abortion. The United States also killed its own supersonic transport program. Abortion was legalized, and again, single women or just women in general who killed their children. It wasn't just their. When a woman kills her child, a man, 50% of the DNA comes from a man. So she's killing not only her child, she's killing a child that has a father somewhere. Anyway, so I'll do it again. Vietnam War, the energy crisis, Apollo program, abortion, Watergate, mainstream pornography, divorce skyrocketing, and people were like, "Yay! You're empowering yourself by getting divorced. Of course, your kids are fucked." And then science died, and of course we opened up relations with China for the first time, real strong, improving diplomatic relations so that we could have a two-way exchange of goods and services, etc. Anyway, the point is, I just mentioned nine things. Confluence of events, 1973. They all came together to destroy the moral fiber of a country. We became morally bankrupt, and we've never recovered. We've just been doubling down every year since then, getting worse and worse until we reached today, 2021, November 2021. The nightmare dystopia that is our reality started in 1973. That was today's video. Hope it cheered you up. Anyway, take care, and bye bye.